Oh god. Mario Kart 64, huh? I don't want to sound pedantic, but goddamn, this game is not that good. I get that at the time, this was a much bigger deal because 3D started to hit its stride. It was a big leap for gaming in general. Nowadays, this game isn't dull, isn't good, it's just boring. I never really enjoyed Mario Kart 64. The amount of gaslighting surrounding this game, or well, surrounded this game, is insane to me. And that sentiment is reflected on its track selection. We have 16 tracks to rank from worst to best, and some of them, goddamn, there's something. While other tracks I didn't expect to like them as much as I want, I will say this, spoiler warning, there is no S tier track in this game. Considering the game is pretty dull to play and also like most of the stuff in this game is just boring, sometimes it can be fun, but many times it is not. I know I'm not saying much in this intro because genuinely I have nothing else to add. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 16, Wario Stadium. Alright, so the tracks that are on the other end of the stick haven't really changed. I still hate these specific tracks, especially Wario Stadium. This has to be the most boring track in the entire franchise. It's way too long and bloated. Why does it take more than 4 minutes to complete? It's also too empty. There's literally nothing on this track. It's as if this track was made on a very primitive level editor. It doesn't even have its own music, it used the Raceway song. What's even unique about this one? The length? It's not even the longest track in the game, or franchise. It doesn't even have obstacles to dodge. I think the only plus I can give is the lazily copy and pasted Wario face on literally everything. I don't know, I find it quite funny, but also I think it's something Wario would totally do. Wario Stadium, it's just nothing. It's a hollow track that bores me to tears. Number 15, Rainbow Road. How in the mother-loving name of hell did they manage to fuck it up? Ranking a Rainbow Road this low feels criminal, yet this is the reality of the situation. This track is even longer than Wario Stadium. The reason why it's ranked above, it is because the music and overall charm give it the edge towards this one. There are guardrails from start to finish, meaning you can't fall off the track except in like the area near the start. Obstacle wise, sometimes a chain jump will show up jumping on the road while going on a zigzag. Even then they don't show up that often. My god, it also feels so monotonous to play. Since it takes more than 5 minutes to complete, it really does feel like a massive track. Almost puts me to sleep with how long it is. There's like barely any interesting gameplay feature in it. In terms of Rainbow Roads, this one is one of the easiest ones in the franchise. I feel like Nintendo heard the complaints with Super Mario Kart's version of Rainbow Road and decided to make it easier. In turn, they have overcorrected it so much, it's just boring. I will say, the music is top notch and generally might be one of the more iconic songs in this franchise. And really, it's a wonder that Nintendo decided to make it a tradition to feature a Rainbow Road at the end of the game for every game going forward, when they basically had no reason to. I'm glad this happened though. It's a shame since everything else about this track is genuinely enjoyable, but if they have shortened up or just altogether make a brand new layout that's not as long as the OG layout, then it would have been much better, but that's just a dream. Number 14, Calamari Desert. I think a common theme with these tracks is that they're just boring. Calamari Desert is a desert track that features nothing except for this one train. The audacity to ask the player to stop at a screeching halt just for the train to pass is still the most insane thing this series has ever done in my opinion. And even the bots fully stop before they die. Well, this is one of the most iconic tracks in the game, but then again, you can probably say the same thing for all of them. For the train alone, it is extra ass when you have to wait until this indestructible wall goes away, and before you know it, everyone else who was lucky to pass the train for a blocked path is already miles ahead of everyone else. It is so unfair. The items in this game don't really accommodate this at all. At best, you can probably catch up with a couple of golden mushrooms and maybe a lighting, but that's about it. Besides that, this track is very boring to play. Anything else that's not the train seems to go on ever and ever and ever until you suddenly are at the finish line. Number 13, Choco Mountain. You know, you think a mountain made of chocolate would have made for a pretty interesting track, but Choco Mountain is also boring, but it's mostly frustrating at times due to the fact that if you hit the walls at any time in a funny way, you die. These specific hills feel extremely jarring to go through. I get it, tricks didn't exist until Mario Kart Wii, and it would be very unfair for 64 to mention that this kind of gameplay is missing something. That being said, it is extremely dull and you also fall unsatisfyingly like a rock. God damn. The Choco Balls barely pose any threat. If you do manage to get hit by one, then might as well restart so you'll never recover from that. I do like this turn, it is very dangerous. If you get knocked out, then you're dead. There's cool elements of this track that can work, it's just this is Mario Kart 64, the game of all time. I like the atmosphere, I suppose. It feels like a desolated chocolate mountain that may or may not be on its downfall already. The music is nice, I guess, although I prefer future renditions of this song. Also, for being a chocolate track, this doesn't look that appetizing, so 0 out of 10, I'm sad. Number 12, Toad's Turnpike. Toad's Turnpike has an amazing song playing in the background. It is extremely chill and such a vibe, honestly. Couple that with the serene skybox that gives the feeling of driving during a sunset or sunrise maybe, while you're on your lowest moment of your life. But then every time you look at the beautiful sky, some hope starts to haunt you once again and the cycle continues. The track itself is just a massive 8. So yeah, we have a pretty damn long straightaways, so right off the bat, this track doesn't have a good impression in terms of gameplay. However, this is the first track in the franchise to feature traffic, and while that is a unique trait for a track to have at the time, it's not executed flawlessly. At certain intervals, the track will get so tight, you are guaranteed to bump into a car primarily because you were there at the wrong time. Two cars can drive in parallel with each other, so if you manage to catch two vehicles while getting ready for a very gentle turn, then you're in for a rude awakening because the damage is very unforgiving. It's the equivalent of a It's the equivalent of a bomb blowing up on you. That's how it feels like. The item boxes in this track are also way to the side for some reason. Not that that's a big problem, I just find it odd how you have to go out of your way to even get one this time around. And if someone is a hit, then chances are they would have practically consumed all the item boxes available, leaving you with nothing, which feels a bit unfair. Overall, the pretty uninspired layout, the obnoxious traffic hazards, which are the track's main gimmick by the way, and odd item placement contribute to a level that is very bad. The reason why this track is a bit memorable to me is, fuck it, I'm gonna say, is because of the vibes. I said the V word, guys. Run. Number 11, Luigi Raceway. You don't always start with the best track. For a tutorial track, it's fine, maybe. It can be a good track to try out drifting in this game, which in newsflash, drifting in this game is absolutely shit. I would rather shoot myself. The turns are extremely gentle and also go on for a good while, which I'm not sure how to feel about it. It also makes the track feel longer. I'm not entirely sure if what I'm saying makes sense, and it's a bit difficult to put this feeling into words. There's a special item box where you can only get blue shells, which is extremely hard to get mainly because of the item boxes right before this one. That's fair. Music is pretty cool and full of whimsy. It's fun. Yeah, I got nothing. This track might be fine for a beginner, but in general this track is extremely bland and boring. Number 10, Banshee Boardwalk. Oh man. This track has such an amazing soundtrack. Like, listen to this masterclass in music making. Messing with matches is what I consider good music. I don't know about you, but this makes me jiggle my wiggler mission. Wiggle! As for the track itself, it's just this kind of Ghost Valley, and considering that I'm not too keen on the Ghost Valley tracks, with the exception of 3, that's not good. Is it as good as Ghost Valley 3? No. For being on the special cup, there sure are a lot of guardrails. This is subtle foreshadowing, by the way, to the final track. In fact, the only section with no guardrails, and funnily enough, the only section that's moderately tricky, is the zigzag right here. Alright, my bad. Epilepsy warning. So you see, if you use the lighting on this track, then you're going to be suffering all kinds of diseases. I don't get old Mario Kart games in there. You need to flash the screen very quickly whenever someone uses the lighting item. I'm so glad we moved past this. Even my eyes were hurting when the epilepsy shock happened while I was playing this. There's also this house. It has nothing unless you count bats that don't do much as something. Welcome to MTV Cribs. This is my house. We got a pretty big house. These are my pet animals. You know, if you look at them funny, you might wake up to see your favorite scrimbly jimbly in hell. Oh yeah, it's under construction, so watch your step, mate. Get those steps in, fatties. Then we got this pool. This is where I dance and I get get money. Don't ask about my side job, okay? We don't talk about it. Not since the pole position incident during '08. And this is the exit. Thank you for partaking on this journey with me. Then another turn and bada bing bada boom. That's all there is to this one. I guess the atmosphere of Banshee Boardwalk is relatively creepy. Couple that with the spooky scary song, which makes this track the most unsettling Mario Kart track of all time. Kind of. I don't know, Bowser's Castle felt more ominous to me than Banshee Boardwalk. Horror themed track with no fanfare, so to speak. Number 9, Sherbet Land. So I know I said I'm an ice theme track enjoyer, but even this is very bland. Sherbet Land's main issue is that it's too open for some reason, leaving a lot of empty space on the track. The only interesting and tricky section of the track is the cave with the penguins, but I feel like the reason it's tricky is because the carts slide everywhere pretty easily, which makes you a very easy target since a bump into these penguins might as well mean you die in real life. Also, back into the cave for a bit, but I also find the layout of the cave a bit awkward, especially if you drive as inward as possible. I do like the reflection though, it is pretty serene, and the fact that in general I feel like N64 can make reflections like this pretty easy is a bit impressive to me. The music is also a very chill one and pretty laid back, a pretty serenade that makes this a bit magical in a way. However, I associate this song with a different track. Don't worry, we will get to it. Number 8, Bowser's Castle. For starters, this is definitely the creepiest Bowser's Castle track. Think about it. Every other track had pretty intense music, almost rock and roll in a way, and if it wasn't, then it would be a slow but intense song that makes you think, oh yeah, Bowser is definitely the boss around here. The other tracks are also fairly populated in a way, what with the Bowser animatronic, drums whose sole purpose are to crush you, and lots of active hazards and whatnot. Not this one. First of all, you're in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by giant lava ocean. The thwomps here, while they do their job, they also laugh in a very creepy way. Ugh, never mind that, but one of them is locked up. Like, what did this guy do? And the music certainly doesn't help. It's slow and intense, but doesn't really give me big boss vibes. Almost like it foreshadows an impending doom. Almost as if the choir singing through this are past victims who dare stood their ground. But I digress. The track is not fun to play, which is a shame because I want to love this one. It's cool. What's less cool are, well, for starters, these two thwomps. For the life of me, I cannot understand these mofos. I don't remember them being this much of a nuisance in Wii, but that might be because the game, controls much better than 64, so it may be a matter of a game feel that is the difference. The stationary ones also feel a bit weird. I can't really tell if I was just unlucky or just being giant ass walls in front of me at the worst possible times was intentional. The moving thwomps are fine. There are certain sections where I feel like they're too tight, like this specific bridge for instance. First off, I got pushed off by some dumbass, which is very fun. It reminds me of a certain game that also was, very fun, super duper fun. Woo boy! Other times, I feel like I drive through this tiny bridge perfectly fine, and yet I still fall off somehow. I guess it might be because the character models are 2D, so in a 3D space, you can't really gauge exactly where your character's hitbox actually is. They don't have this stupid ass spiral that is awkward to go through. Like normally, you would try to a little bit, like normally you would drift a little bit inwards here, like a normal person would. I tried doing that, but even hitting the walls too many times is a bit detrimental. I think spirals are these old games' biggest weaknesses. Not for any particular reason besides the game feel being a bit off compared to modern Mario Kart, which means anything you do, you cannot take the spiral properly at all. This Bowser statue is pretty cute. I also kinda like this part right here, because you have to quickly react to the sudden split road. One is free, but the other one has a wall towards the inward part of the track, which can maybe catch someone by surprise. In terms of Bowser's Castle, this is the best one I've seen yet. Number 7, Royal Raceway. Royal Raceway for the first few turns is a pretty decent track, but after the big jump it sorta falls apart. First off, the big jump is the literal definition of unsatisfying. You hit the ground like a giant lump of rock, but you're also floating for a good while. So basically you're just staying there watching the screen until it's time to play the game for 3 seconds, I would say. After that, we have a couple of twisty turns, and then we have the worst turn ever made. Like if you go off-road for just a split second, dead. Want a bit off-road here? Go down here, loser. Go take a swim. What about this patch of grass? Dead. I really don't like this, but it's mainly because Mario Kart 64 is a little bit quirky at times. Also 3-minute plus track, therefore cringe. And this goes to all the losers who are creaming their panties over the fact that you can visit Peach's castle. Neat Easter egg. Yes, I would agree. But who cares? And who asks, broskies? Because no one cares. Trust me. Number 6, DK's Jungle Parkway. The first DK track in the series. I think they did a decent enough job with this one. If you're just on another big jump, unlike any other big jump, you get to control where you get to land here. I mean, it's not as if you couldn't do that already, but in the other tracks such as Royal Raceway, you didn't have a lot of space to choose where to land, and you also didn't have any reason to move while you're floating. But here you have this big curve, or if you want to be daring, then you can veer a little bit to the side and take this jump, which can be exciting. One interesting quirk is that if you go off-road for just a second, spiky coconuts will be thrown at you to make you get out. I've never seen something like this before, and it's the only track in the series that does this. This gimmick never returned in future entries, nor the remake for said track. Then we have this not so quite narrow bridge. Seriously, this bridge is relatively pretty big. I think they wanted to make a narrow section, since up until this point the track has been relatively wide, but not too wide at the same time, but I think they were unsuccessful. Then we have Cave, where there is no off-road, so to speak, so you can literally do this, which is cool. I really don't have anything to say about the music because it's horrifically horrendous. It's literally a 15-second music loop of just jungle noises. That's it. Number 5, Yoshi Valley. So you have a track that acts like a maze, kind of. Yoshi Valley is an interesting track in a way. One could say, just go with the fastest route and avoid everything else because there are a bunch of time wasters. I would agree. If it wasn't for the fact that the fastest route is the tightest route to take as well, featuring a very high probability of falling off the track, and if that happens, then you have to endure 5 billion years of falling and dying until Lakitu finally puts you back on the track. It is an extremely harsh punishment that, while fair in this instance, it can also be extremely annoying if, say for example, during these turns right here, you get pushed off the track, so now you gotta wait 4 lifetimes until Lakitu saves you. It isn't a bad punishment, but I think this is just my biggest pet peeve when it comes to old Mario Kart games, in that bad stuff can happen to you that is outside your control, and I fucking hate this so much. Because of limitations of the N64, maybe, I'm not sure, we don't know where is who. Instead, we have to rely on the minimap for us to see where we are in the race. I find this kinda cool, but besides that, I don't get how this has anything to do with Yoshi, I guess besides a giant Yoshi egg that's roaming around one part of the track, and also even back then you would normally take the other routes besides not just the very fast one, but the pretty fast one as well, unless you were inconvenienced into taking another route. Number 4, Mario Raceway. The best circuit track in the game, I suppose. Yes, these are more or less circuit tracks, but named differently. Mario Raceway definitely has a couple of twisting turns here and there, but it doesn't go too crazy with them. The giant pipe sure is pretty interesting location. Unfortunately, it doesn't have anything inside of it. Overall, this track is pretty fun for what it is. It is not extraordinary by any stretch of imagination, but it isn't that bad. I also don't have much to say about it. It is a perfectly harmless track. Number 3, Moo Moo Farm. I honestly cannot believe that this track made it this far on the list, but it does make sense. For being a Mushroom Cup track, Moo Moo Farm features a couple of neat things about it. For starters, I just want to mention this very quickly, but playing this track feels like I'm watching a NASCAR competition with how quick it is compared to the Legion Raceway's pretty slow gameplay. The Monty Moles definitely add a lot to this as pretty intriguing obstacles. The position more inward, so if you don't want to risk any chance of getting caught by one, then you go as outwards as possible. But if you want to be faster and more ahead of the competition, to taking the turn as inwards as possible is the play. However, you have to contend with the Monty moles. The way some of them spawn in feels a bit random, which adds an element of excitement in a way when going over the holes on the ground. If you do get caught by one, then the effect is like similar to when you get hit by a fake item box. It's pretty brutal if you ask me, which is why it makes this otherwise pretty bare bones Windows XP looking background Mushroom Cup track into an unexpected standout. Number 2, Frappe Snowland. I really like the song and I associate this track with it. Frappe Snowland has a lot of twisty turns that make it a fun track to play on. It also features nuke snowmen. If you touch one of them, then a nuke will go off. This final section here, while having nothing on the road, I think it's pretty cool seeing these walls around those. Then going back on the bridge, right on the finish line. It feels like we went and explored a cave and came out of it on the other side. Kinda like when you dig straight underground and suddenly you're in China. At least that's what I heard. I haven't tested that yet. Can someone confirm that theory for me? Although one thing I hate about this track is the fact that when you try to make any particular cuts, Lakitu acts like a little bitch and puts you back on the track. This dude is the fun police of Mario Kart, and a very corrupt one at that. But I cannot prove that, so you better watch your back shell, guy in Cloud, man. I'm on to you, and I will do absolutely everything in my power to find out about you. Number 1, Koopa Troopa Beach! A track that I like, and seemingly everyone else as well. I think Koopa Troopa Beach is the undisputed champion of Mario Kart 64 tracks. It got vibes, it got cool gameplay, and it got a cool Koopa Troopa rock statue. There's this one shortcut that is extremely broken, but it quickly gets mitigated by the rubber banding. I don't know, going for the shortcut and getting it right feels like a power move of sorts. It's pretty satisfying and exhilarating to take as well. Water on this track is interesting. If you go on the water, you slow down from what I noticed. There's also a check that feels free when using items on it. I'm not sure if that made any sense, but I don't know how to put this feeling into words. I will say this. Why are these specific trees so deadly when you bump into them? It's pretty much game over or barely a game over if you don't drive through this properly. Besides that, it's a pretty chill track with a serene music accompanying it, and for some reason this is the peak of Mario 64. Huh. And with that, the ranking is over. Here's a tier list for your perusal. Still no S tier tracks, but at least we managed to get into A tier territory, so that has to account for something, right? Sorry if the video at times sounded a bit rushed or not as consistent. I've been pushing myself to finish the script for this one because I was playing Super Circuit in the middle of this one, and I gotta say, I kinda wanna talk about Super Circuit tracks more than 64s. But then I keep remembering that I haven't finished the script, so I have been inching towards completion, but it is finally done. Next time, I will be ranking Mario Kart Super Circuit tracks, so stay tuned for that ranking video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Have a nice day!